What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBMTG. Down there on the YouTube.com, we enjoy a spot of magic from time to time. We've got a deck take for you today, and it's apparently long awaited. I said this at the end of the spoiler video that I just put out, but somebody in the comments the other day said that Red Green Werewolves is going to be SBMTG's Half-Life 3. And I was like, has it gotten to that point? I need to do this video. So today, we're going to do Red Green Werewolves, and we're going to make it as competitive as we possibly can. And somehow, it's still only going to be about 50 bucks. Let's start with the creatures in the deck. We're playing a whole bunch of them, 26 in our aggro deck. Although it's not an all-in aggro deck like the white-based humans decks are. You know, those will play like 16 one-drops. We're not doing that, you know, but we're not quite a mid-range deck. We definitely want to attack for the win and fairly quickly. So let's start with the creatures. We'll tell you what we're doing. We're going to play 3 Kessig Prowler, our only one-drop wolf in the deck. Now, I do want to start by saying that I don't want all the one-drops. Like, I was playing Village Messenger in the deck. But we're trying to go a little bit deeper in the game than traditional aggro usually does. So something, you know, like one-drops aren't incredibly effective against everything. Now, I did pack 4 Village Messenger and the 4th Kessig Prowler in the board so we can go way underneath certain decks that need some time to set up. It's a one-drop, by the way, a 2-power one-drop that gets good in the later game. You don't see those every now and again. Usually, those are strictly awful top decks. This can be a pretty good top deck for you, and I'd definitely rather play it than Village Messenger in the main. On to the 2-drops. We're going to play 4 very obvious copies of Duskwatch Recruiter. You know, he's great because not only is he card advantage, he's a mana sink in case we didn't draw what we needed to draw. We can dig a little bit with him. But he facilitates things transforming. Turn 2, you can play Duskwatch Recruiter. Turn 3, you can just activate him, dig into your deck, and then when their upkeep comes, you can transform your Duskwatch Recruiter. That's good, and that's also decent, you know, in the midpoint of the game. Turn 5, turn 6 sometimes. Just, you know, activate him once or even twice. Don't play any spells, say go, and transform all your werewolves. So he's really good when it comes to transforming your werewolves, but still feeling as though you did something. You got some card advantage, you know. So Duskwatch Recruiter is just good in pretty much every way. And when he does transform, he gets a little bigger and he makes our guys cheaper to play. Everything about Recruiter is good, and he might literally be like the best card in the deck. It's possible. We're going to play a 3-of Lambholt Pacifist because it's another one of the best werewolves in Standard. Just to be honest, you know, Lambholt Pacifist is really, really good. A 2-mana 3/3 that becomes basically a 2-mana 4/4 pretty easily, and the deck facilitates even an untransformed one attacking pretty easily, you know. We've got a ton of things that buff our creatures in this deck, so even if we don't have a creature that has a natural PT of 4, with just 1 buff, she can ensure that she lets herself attack when she's untransformed. That's really good. And when she does transform, she gets a little bit bigger too. So 2-mana 4/4s are traditionally really awesome and traditionally not even really a thing. We don't see too many of those. So Lambholt Pacifist, I don't think I'm going to play every single copy of it, although I could see definitely doing that. But at least play the 3. The card is very powerful. I'm going to make room for 2 copies of Scourge Wolf in the 2-drops. We don't need all the copies of this, especially considering it's prohibitive to cast on turn 2. But later on in the game, it's actually easier to get Delirium than you might think. You know, we're playing creatures, obviously. We're playing lands. We're playing planeswalkers. We're playing enchantments. We're playing instants. So we've got a few different kinds of card types, and Delirium is not as hard to get as you might think in this thing. So sometimes, especially, I've already mentioned this, we've got a lot of things in this deck that buff our wolves. So something like this can get up to 4 or 5 power in the mid to late game and really start wrecking face pretty easily. I'm going to play 4 copies of Breakneck Rider as we move into the 3-drops here. Now here's a thing that buffs all of our creatures. I was just talking about those. At least when it's transformed, it buffs all of our guys, so very, very important. And even when it's not transformed, it's still decent power of toughness to CMC sort of ratio. You know, 3-mana for a 3/3 is at least an okay deal. Not to mention that once you do get it transformed, it becomes really, really good. So I want to play all 4 copies of this. More 3-drops. There are more 3-drop creatures than any other thing on the mana curve here. So got a lot of those to go through. We're going to play 3 copies of Silver Fur Partisan in the deck. And we're not actually playing anything, you know, like Borrowed Hostility or Titan Strength, you know, nothing like that in the deck that'll buff our guys. But this is some good defense against removal, which is really what an aggro deck like this needs. You know, if they try to target our guys with Ruinous Path or whatever, murder, who cares? You know, Ultimate Price while it's still in the format. Then or Grasp of Darkness, whatever. You know, they try to target one of our guys, then we'll get a wolf for it. So it's basically like they've spent removal and we didn't actually lose a creature. That's pretty cool. You know, we've still got the same amount of creatures on the board. So Partisan is pretty important, although he's only important really against decks that pack a ton of removal, hence just the 3 of. And if you play decks that play almost no removal, you can completely side out Silver Fur for something else. You know, he's not incredibly important, so I don't want to go the full 4 of. But against decks like Black-White Control that play almost nothing but removal, card is pretty effective. Another 3 of, there's a 3 of Spirit of the Hunt in this deck, and it's really good while Languish is still in the format. Like, really, really good. But this is even good when just protecting a single wolf from a Grasp of Darkness. It's really not that bad, and it's also really good in what appear to be not very advantageous combat situations. You know, against other aggro decks and even some mid-range and tokens builds, they'll think they have the upper hand on a, you know, an Alpha Strike or something like that. But if you can threaten this card, then it will sometimes hold them off. And in games where they don't even know you're playing the card, you know, game 1, some matches, if you can just blow them out with this, that's nice. You know, sometimes they'll just won't see this coming. And once you do blow them out with it, hello, Igby, I'm sorry, buddy, I'm not acknowledging you, you're here. You're a good kitty. But, you know, after they do know it exists, it's this weird mind game. Oh, you know, they have 3 mana for a Spirit of the Hunt. Maybe I should watch my attacks a little bit more. This could actually be one of the standout cards in the deck because it not only is a decent card for the mana, saves all your guys, not only from removal, but, you know, things like mass removal, like Languish and stuff, Radiant Flames. This just kind of does it all. I love the fact that it has Flash. I love the power toughness for the converted mana cost. This is good even when saving 1 creature from a Grasp of Darkness. So lots of things to love about Spirit of the Hunt. It's one of the standout cards in the deck. To finish off the 3-drop creatures, I'm going to play 2 copies of Gyre Reach Bandit in the deck, which is a flexible slot. Some people love the card, some people hate the card, but I really like it once it's transformed. Getting to play guys and immediately transform them is a very, very good option to have. Not only that, but he's a 3-power, 3-mana guy with haste, which can sometimes come down and immediately blow in 3 damage for you, which isn't bad either. You know, he adds a little bit of needed speed to the deck, you know. And to finish off the creatures in total here, we're going to play 2 copies of Ulrich. He's way up on the curve at 5 mana, so I don't want to play a whole bunch of copies of him. But he is very good as a finisher. You know, sometimes you'll either play your Ulrich, give a guy +4/+4, and swing in with a huge guy, especially, by the way, if that dude happens to be a Scourge Wolf. Things can get out of hand really, really fast. You know, you've got Ulrich, you've got a couple of other buffs out, you make your Scourge Wolf, you know, an 8-power guy, and you swing in. Like, things get pretty silly with an Ulrich, and he's removal too, which is really, really good once he transforms. Not only that, he's a big guy in and of himself. Just everything about Ulrich is good once you have the mana to play him. So I at least want to play a couple copies of him because he can be a blowout card for 5. 3 Planeswalkers in the deck, and you can probably guess what it is. 3 copies of Arlen Cord here. This is basically our 4-drop creature. It's sort of how it feels, you know. We'll play this on turn 4, and often we'll make a wolf and go ahead and transform her. Which is not bad either, because on the next turn, turn 5, we can play an Ulrich and give a creature a buff, and buff all of our creatures with Arlen Cord, or we can bolt one of their guys out of the way and get a good swing in, you know. So I like the way that Arlen curves into Ulrich an awful lot. That's cool. She's a token maker. She bolts things. She buffs all of our guys. She's just a Swiss Army knife for exactly this kind of deck. And I really, really like Arlen. But you know, the card buffs creatures, kills creatures, and makes creatures. Just awesome. And we're going to play 4 enchantments in the deck. 4 copies of Howlpack Resurgence, and you probably could have guessed that too. Yet another thing that buffs all of our creatures. That's really good. We need as many of those as possible. It's a good combat trick. I like that not only this, but Spirit of the Hunt 2 are also combat tricks. That's really good. So they really tried to push Howlpack Resurgence here because they know it's just an enchantment. Doesn't give you a whole lot of value, especially on turn 3. You probably shouldn't play this on turn 3. Just throwing that out there. Play a creature on turn 3. Play this turn 4, 5, 6, you know, and blow them out. At instant speed sometimes, you know, they can make blocks, and then you play your Howlpack Resurgence, and that can blow them out. You know, there's a lot. It's because of Spirit of the Hunt and Howlpack Resurgence, there's a lot of math that they have to account for, even if the cards themselves aren't on the board. You know, so things like that can really throw them off. And really make them nervous when they're trying to do combat math. So Howlpack Resurgence, really great that it's an instant. You can use it as a combat trick, and is awesome because it buffs all our guys. That's why we're playing in the first place. Now, finish off the deck, we're going to play 4 copies of Removal. Removal's important. We're going to play 4 Moonlight Hunt in the deck. Love that it's instant speed. That's pretty cool, but it does require us to have creatures out for it to be even playable at all, which against some decks can be poop, but as far as I can tell, what you could do is run 4 Galvanic Bombardment in place of this. I'd put Galvanic Bombardment into the board, so we can either board out this for Galvanic Bombardment, or we can play both against heavy creature decks. That's a possibility, but it all depends on your personal preference. Bombardment is always going to be able to target a creature, very often able to kill it. This requires that we have permanents out, which can turn some people off, but they're more often than not, 70-80% of the time, from what I've seen, this card will kill guys pretty easily, because the whole focus of the deck is to have creatures. We've got 26 creatures. We can dig for creatures with Duskwatch Recruiter. We can make more creatures with Arlen Cord, So not hard to have a couple of guys out and kill, 4, 5, and 6 toughness dudes on their side of the board at instant speed with a Moonlight Hunt. So there are cons, but I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons in a deck like this. 23 lands in the deck. Check it out right here. There's 23 of them. Pretty easy mana base to make. Some people might be like, Evolving Wilds. It's mostly there because of Scourge Wolf, and we don't have all the action on turn 1, especially game 1. We have Kessig Prowler, but we're not always going to have it. Sometimes we'll just use our turn 1 to go ahead and put a land in the graveyard and fix our mana, especially if we're trying to cast Scourge Wolf on turn 2, which sometimes we will want to do. So Evolving Wilds is mostly there for Scourge Wolf, but aside from that, pretty easy mana base to figure out. Here's our sideboard right here, and this was honestly also fairly easy to figure out. I wanted some more very cheap removal. That's where Galvanic Bombardment came in. I already talked about that. I wanted a way to protect against any mass removal other than Spirit of the Hunt. That's already good protection. Ulvenwald Mysteries, it was there for me on that. Spirit of the Hunt, I'm going to fill out the play set against, again, decks that play mass removal or want to attack into us all the time. Waxing Moon, a little bit more complicated. That is in there mostly against slow or control-y decks, especially. I found that transforming our guys anytime we want is very good against control. Mostly because they're going to do things in response some of the time, or they're going to do something because of how we're set up. They're going to respond to how we've got our board set up. So Waxing Moon at instant speed can be really good to throw off control players, but I haven't, to be honest with you, have not cited it in too much, although it can be very good in combination with Ulrich especially. And here are your power rankings right here. A final score of 59 when you add it all up. The deck is still at least fairly powerful, it's workable, and it's got a really, really nice curve. That's one of the best things about the entire deck. We've got pretty good and decent drops that generate initiative, or at least set us up to do something good, like Duskwatch Recruiter, for instance. We've got good 2 drops, good 3 drops. We've got Arlen Cord as our 4 drop, Ulrich as our 5 drop, or we can play like a 3 drop and a 2 drop on turn 5. So we've got a good, solid, round curve in the deck, and that's probably the saving grace of the deck, to be honest with you, because there are some cons. We fail sometimes against decks that are either much, much faster than us and get out ahead of us. That happens occasionally, although we do better against those decks in game 2. Those are the only decks that we necessarily do better against after sideboard happens. But we will sometimes lose game 1. And ultimately, we do lose out against a lot of decks that will play tons and tons of removal, even though we've got Spirit of the Hunt. We've got Silverfur Partisan. We've got a couple of things that save our guys. It's just, sometimes in the end, it's not enough, and we can get overwhelmed by extremely removal-heavy decks. But again, for only about $50, that's not bad at all for what is a pretty competitive deck. It's approaching a 60. That's not bad either as far as the aggregate of the score goes here. But it's an affordable deck that's a lot of fun to play, good round curve, decent aggro strategy, and plays some cards that work together very well. And that's all I've got for now. Let me know how you felt about Red-Green Werewolves, because a lot of people have wanted this deck for a really long time, and I really hope you enjoyed it, because I've been working on it for a while, and this is as good as I could make the thing. Let me know what alterations you might make to it, anything I missed or left out, let me know, and I'm looking forward to that. I read every single comment that you guys leave. Just to let you know, I read every single comment, so leave them, and also leave a like on the video, hit the thumbs up if you like the content, and what are we doing next time, so you can subscribe subscribe. That's cool. See, I seamlessly work the subscribe ploy into what are we doing next time. I'm getting better at YouTube. Although I just screwed it all up just there. But anyway, what are we doing next time? I've talked about this a couple of times. We're doing the top 10 cards that are rotating, the top 10 best rotating cards whose non-presence will warp the format. I'm going to do the top 5 cards that get better when rotation happens. Can't wait to do that. And the one I'm most excited about, we're going to be doing five whole in one video, 5 pauper ideas for standard. That is to say, 5 all common deck ideas in the standard format. Really can't wait to do that. Plus Kaladesh spoilers. So all the content. Sub if you're new. And I'll see you guys later. I'm Deb from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.